everybody. Welcome to the weekly sports chat here at WXYZ.com. I'm your host each and every week, Justin Rose. Looking forward to chatting with you over the next hour. We're going to get to plenty of different topics around the sporting world, including the Super Bowl. And the big tease we have to put out there for you is Super Bowl 50 is now set. It's between the Carolina Panthers and the Denver Broncos, or the Denver Mannings, if you will. Max White, sports digital producer here. Who's typing as I speak?
Sorry, I'm tweeting.
It's okay. It happens. I do it all the time, too.
I suffer from the same thing you suffer. You can't talk and tweet at the same time.
Can't talk and tweet at the same time. It's a deadly combo. Here's how the show works, for those of you just joining us here. This is interactive, and we want as much input from you guys as we can get, as well as we continue to go forward with the show. So there's a couple of ways you can get involved in the conversation. You can tweet at me or Max, JRoseWXYZ, or Max White, WXYZ.
We have very simple Twitter handles.
We're very simple people. We can also get your tweets at WXYZ Detroit, or if you would really like to get involved in the Facebook discussion, you can do that at the WXYZ Facebook page, or even send us an email. Tons of different ways. Also, the biggest one, phone calls, 248-356-0077, 248-356-0077. In case you want to be heard and have a little conversation with me about the topics that we're going to go over. We're going to talk about high school recruiting into college and what's wrong with that system, or is it right? I don't know. You guys tell me.
It's not right.
No, it's not right, but leave it up to discussion. And we're also going to talk a little bit about Michigan State and Michigan basketball. Just got off the court, that's why I look a little lax today with John Beeline. I have a fun feature with him coming up today at WXYZ News at 6, so if you want to check that out as well. But Max, let's get started with the NFL, because we have to start there because, wow. Carolina yesterday.
Yeah.
How about that?
Cam Newton is, that's your MVP, right? It's got to be your MVP.
Yeah,
for sure. I saw Trey Wingo of ESPN tweeted out yesterday before the game that all but 10 of Carolina's touchdowns in the entire season have been
They only have 10 rushing touchdowns?
Involved, apparently, yeah. All but 10 have been – Cam Newton has not been involved in, whether he's thrown a touchdown pass or rushed for a touchdown. All but 10.
Wow.
What do you have, 2 passing touchdowns, 2 rushing touchdowns yesterday?
Yeah, he's pretty
good.
He's pretty interesting. Cam Newton is the type of guy that it's funny seeing all of the tweets and stuff. This is why Twitter is such a fun tool if it's approached with the right way as an information gatherer, but also a social fun tool. There's all these reporters and stuff and analysts and people that kind of said during the draft that he was going to be a bust, and now they're kind of like, oh, well,
we were wrong.
We were a little bit off base on the assessment of Cam Newton. But no, Cam Newton is fantastic. That Carolina defense is the real deal. 7 turnovers. Part of that's self-inflicted wounds for Arizona, but it's also they're in the right spot making the play, forcing fumbles, getting to the quarterback, having him throw some bad plays. But finally, Tom Brady. We don't have to talk about Tom Brady and the Patriots going into the Super Bowl, and that just feels like...
I'm upset about that.
Oh, why?
I'm a big Patriots fan. I like terrific Tom.
You don't like the Patriots?
I do like the Patriots.
This is the first I've heard of this. I've known you for a year and a half.
I wore a Tom Brady jersey on my appearance on the 7 Sports Cave last year Super Bowl episode when I cooked you guys burgers.
I just thought you were borrowing that jersey from somebody you knew because you were going to be on the show.
You
want to be on the show
jersey.
in 2 weeks?
We'll
have you back.
Can I just make an appeappearance? I don't think I could talk.
Well,
we'll get to that in another discussion. Suburban Ford 7 Sports Cave every Sunday at 11.
Plug. All about those plugs. No, but it's... Look, I'm glad we don't have to talk about Tom Brady because, frankly, I'm sick and tired of the Patriots winning. Whether they cheat or whether they don't cheat, it's still a story to talk about them, and it's boring. I think that fans like to see a mix-up. It's like the whole Alabama. They win every year. Is it boring? Does it get to a point where Alabama doesn't think it's boring, but the Patriots don't think it's boring. But for a casual fan who has no attachment to these teams, and you don't have an attachment to the New England, get a tattoo of Tom Brady on your other calf, and we'll talk about it.
We're not going to go
there.
Yeah,
we're going to go there. We're going to go there. But no, I really like the Super Bowl matchup. This year will be a lot of fun. Looks like it's 3.5, 4-point favorite for Carolina was the lines opening up as of right now. But I think the storylines for this game are great. You have out with the old and in with the new. Peyton Manning's probably last game. It is his last game.
If it's not, the NFL should force him to retire.
He's not going to come back. He can't come back physically. He's unable to really do the things that are going to make him successful. I mean, he only had 176 passing yards yesterday. Didn't need a ton, but I mean, that's not a good number by any stretch of the imagination. I look at this Super Bowl matchup as Peyton Manning versus, I can't even say it without Tom Brady in there. You hear that?
Yeah.
Peyton Manning's he's the old guy. He's the guy that everyone's easy to root for. He's got all those great ads, and he's just America's quarterback, really. I mean, he's the type of guy that, everyone can kind of rally behind. Then you got Cam Newton, who, if you're like me and you love his activity on the field and the way that he plays the game, I love him. I can't get enough of Cam Newton. I really, really do enjoy watching him play the game of football, simply because he's good at it and because he has fun with it. People think that he's showboating and being a little, conceited and stuff like that, and I don't disagree with that. But at the same time, he's always smiling. He's got a great smile.
He's got a giant. His
He's got
smile
a great
is
smile.
great.
The guy likes to have fun with the game, and I think that people at this day and age don't want to sit there and be grumpy and Cam Newton giving a first down chant every time he gets a first down, diving into the end zone.
Pulling the flags down off the Superman.
I love him. I love his. But
he's
fun to watch. He's the anti-Peyton Manning.
That's a good way to put it.
He does it. And Peyton Manning is the type of
And so we talked about this before the show, and I figured we'll get right into it. Could the Lions be in the Super Bowl soon? We have, and we put it out there. I put it out there on social media. Gary said, not a question, just a comment. I would like to see a playoff win for the Lions. Once that happens, we can look to bigger things. And I have this question for Gary, if he's still watching. When do you think the Lions will be in the playoffs and get that playoff win? And what do you think it takes to get that playoff win?
Hang on a minute. I got some great tweets.
Oh, I know. I've seen them.
These are great. Michael gets in with, the question was asked, Super Bowl 50 is set. Could the Lions be there soon? Submit questions and watch live webcast, blah, 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 blah. Martin Michael gets in with, why, did they buy tickets? He follows that one with, maybe they know somebody on the team.
I guess they could be there, technically.
Tim gets in with, ha, why do you ask such a question just to screw with the fans' hearts? Ha, they're the Lions. No. Here is where the popular rhetoric exists, and you're going to hear this if you listen to any of the other sports talk radio stations around town, because it's actually got some credence to it. Let's rewind back and stick with me here as I try to paint this picture for you eloquently with my words. 3 years ago, the Carolina Panthers were where the Lions are, no doubt in my mind. They had just drafted Cam Newton, who had a disastrous transition from the college game into the NFL. Didn't think it was going to work, bust written all over it. Ron Rivera comes in. He goes, what, 5 and...
Did we talk about this last?
No. He went 5-11 in his first year and went 7-9 in his second year. By the way, his second year was last year. They get a new general manager in there who decides to keep Ron Rivera as the head coach after going 7-9 because he had the locker room and the place was going in the right direction. Does this sound familiar to anybody? They go to the Super Bowl this year.
So here's my question, though. They also have Cam Newton.
Right.
Lions? I don't think the Lions have.
No,
Cam
they don't.
Newton.
And the argument will be made that the talent gap is greater between Carolina and Detroit, and I would not necessarily completely disagree with that. But I will say that there are pieces in Detroit that they feel, and I feel, can win. Matthew Stafford's not going to take that leap like Cam Newton did. But at the same time, they're different quarterbacks. They do things differently. They run different systems. I mean, they're running the veer, for God's sakes, out of Carolina.
And Cam Newton is also basically a linebacker.
Yeah, he's 6'6", and
he's run fast and can throw the ball.
He's unbelievable. He's an unbelievable specimen. It would be like Calvin Johnson being your quarterback. Seriously, like that's the type of size that he possesses.
Yeah, no, they're once in a generation athletes. You don't have quarterbacks who are 6'6", 250 that could run a 4.6.
If they have a spare, I'd like to go to the Super Bowl too. Martin's getting back with more. That's good. He's good. But anyways, my point is can the Lions take that step under a new general manager who has vowed to get more talent here in Detroit with a head coach that owns the locker room the way that Jim Caldwell does? Look, the players still have to go out and perform. There's no doubt in my mind. There's no doubt in your mind. You're not sitting at home going, well, if they get the right pieces, it's just going to happen. It doesn't happen that way. But I see the Lions trending upward. I really do. And I like Jim Caldwell staying. I said that before, and I'll say it again. I think that him, Jim Bob Cooter, and Terrell Austin have a good thing going with at least the second half of the season. Here's where I draw the line. Here's where you were about to ask the questions from the people talking about getting that playoff win and winning a playoff game before we start talking about going to the Super Bowl, and I agree with that. There's a step process here. However, you all right over there?
I was trying to lower my chair, but it doesn't work.
Completely knocked me off my train of thought.
Yeah, sorry.
That's okay. Let's see, where was I? Oh, with the coordinators and the head coach being intact, and if Bob Quinn can get those guys talent, I look at them going like 11-5 like they did last year. They could win with talent here in Detroit. And when you get to the playoffs, yes, you have to win a game to get to the next game, to win to the next game, to get to the Super Bowl. Like, I get that. You have to win a couple of games to get to the Super Bowl. But this team is not that far away. You got to get some help on the defensive front line. You got to get some help on the offensive front line. You got to replace Calvin Johnson because he's probably retiring. And then your running back situation is pretty much set with Abdullah and Theo Riddick. Mm-hmm. Your quarterback situation is okay. You need another wideout to help with Golden Tate, and maybe you get another guy out of free agency as well. You shore up an offensive lineman or two. You go to the defensive side. You got one of your corners good. You got to replace old man Rasheem Mathis.
Who is, from what I think I read a week or two ago, he is contemplating retirement as well.
I mean, if he doesn't retire, it's the same thing with Tom Brady or Peyton Manning. It's time. It's just time. They got to replace middle linebacker and Stephen Tulloch, but they can do these things in draft and free agency, so they're not that far away. I mean, I talked about 5 or 6 positions, but every team has 5 or 6 positions they need to improve upon. I don't know. What do you guys think? That's the point of us throwing it out there. Is do you think? I mean, the tweets that I'm getting are people that are going nuts, like, "You're unbelievable." Oh, here's more from this Martin guy. All right, why don't the Lions change the color of their uniforms to bright blue spectrum to blind their opponents? A neon blue spectrum as outlined in yesterday's class, like the Carolina Panthers. See? This guy's all over it. Well, we want to hear from you on this, 248-356-0077. You guys can get those phone calls in at any time you want. You can also get to the tweets.
Here's something interesting to look at. So last week we talked about Calvin Johnson and the possibility of retiring. Do you look at a guy like Laquan Treadwell in the first round of the draft? He could go. He could go in the top. In that Lions pick range.
Yeah, you look. There's a lot of different ways the Lions can go, and that's what Bob Quinn is going to be heavily judged upon, because this team has missed on so many first and second round picks throughout the years that they can't. Those are your bona fide starters. Those are the guys that come in and compete for starting jobs right away. If you don't hit on those, you're going to be wrong. So a guy like Laquan Treadwell, yeah, you look at him and you're like, oh, it's somebody that we. But how does he grade out as opposed to maybe one of those offensive tackles, maybe one of those wide receivers, maybe one of those linebackers that are really highly rated?
Yeah.
And I think that's where he's going to look.
And you can always find a wide receiver. You can find a good enough wide receiver.
I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Wide receivers and running backs, to me, are a dime a dozen. You can find. Why has New England been so consistent over the year with their running game, year in and year out? They had like 5 running backs this year. Mm-hmm. Can you name them all?
I don't think
LeGarrette
Blount,
whatever.
Steven Jackson.
I mean, kind of. But who was the guy that got hurt that was really good for them for a long time?
Oh, man,
but
I don't.
We're already talking about
Exactly.
They just find guys and plug them in and play them. It was a kid from Pitt. I can't think of his name off the top of my head. I don't know. Dixon. I want to say his last name was Dixon.
Gary has gotten back in. I said, Gary, tell us, when. He said the team has the talent to get a playoff win next season. Caldwell has to be better.
I agree with that.
I think everybody has to be better.
And the Lions know that. And I think that everyone understands that to be in a position where Carolina's in, look, everyone was better. They've only lost 1 game this year. And that's incredible. Mm-hmm.
That will probably be the only game they lose, because I think they beat the Broncos.
If you look at that matchup, I mean, it's pretty.
But I think Vegas has come out and put the Panthers at a 4-point favorite right now.
They are.
But in that that Broncos defense and that Broncos defensive line that has got them to the point they are today. It'll be interesting to see what happens because Tom Brady isn't, he's a great pocket passer. And he was under a lot of pressure yesterday.
Look, I haven't had enough time to really kind of dive into that matchup yet, but like on paper, that is the best offensive-defensive battle that it is. I got to give the edge to Carolina simply because I think their defense is not as good as Denver's defense, but probably, if you look, Denver's the top-rated defense. I mean, Carolina's got to be in the top 5.
Yeah, and they could do enough to stop Peyton Manning. By the way, did you see Peyton Manning rush for 12 yards yesterday?
I heard about it. I had a hockey game yesterday.
I was listening to it on the radio on my way home from the station when it happened, and Kevin Harlan, who calls the game for Westwood One, I believe, was just shocked that this is happening.
And he got to the outside.
And then later on in the day, a bunch of the sports pages were posting, photos and videos of the player reactions of seeing Peyton Manning run on the scoreboard, and they were just like hands over their mouth, shocked.
Oh my gosh, this is great, dude! I love Twitter. There's just all these little memes and stuff of different things. It's just so good. But so who are you taking? We'll talk about it next week, of course, as well as the game gets closer. But as of today, you picking Carolina?
Yeah, I don't think Denver's defense can stop Cam Newton. They can slow him down, but the guy's a scoring machine.
Yeah, but Denver's defense is really good.
Yeah, but Cam Newton is also really good.
But that's one guy.
Yeah, but the one guy that's gotten them this far. I mean, who do they have as wide receivers? Ted Ginn Jr. Mm-hmm. Come on, Cam Newton has made Ted Ginn Jr.
Well, yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
Devin Funchess?
Hey, he was on my fantasy team for a couple weeks.
I drafted him late, thinking he would be good.
He was good for a couple weeks. When they switched him to a starter, he had a good week that week. That's all I cared about. But I mean, I just let me see if I can pull up some defensive stats here.
I look at that as very defense stopping Cam Newton it's going to probably be a low-scoring affair. I can't imagine this being a... Now, do I think Carolina will force Peyton Manning into making some mistakes? Sure. I think that'll be where the game turns, and that's why I think Carolina will win the game. Ball security and turnover margin is going to be... I mean, in every game it's a big deal, but this matchup to me is defense versus defense with a really strong... It's the number one offense in the NFL versus the number one defense. Here's the thing about that, though, because we've seen this matchup before. Just go back 1 year ago. Seattle's top-ranked defense versus New England's top-ranked offense. How did that work out? Seattle was going to win the game. So having a better defense in a game like the Super Bowl has, at times, I'm using one example, and if you want to go back and tell me another example, I'd love to hear it, because that's the only one I can think of off the top of my head. But Seattle was about to win that football game, and they decided to throw on the 1 yard line, which makes tons of sense. So that's what I mean. I think that a defense can slow down an offense enough, and if you get your breaks on the offensive side of the ball, you can do some things with that. That being said, I think Peyton Manning turns the ball over at least twice.
Yeah, I don't think Peyton Manning has faced it. Well,
he has.
He has, but I don't. He wasn't coming off an injury, and though it's been a few weeks since he started, it's still, they get to him enough and they hit him enough. You'll slow Peyton Manning down. I mean, here's why I think Carolina's going to win, and it comes down to Cam Newton's statistics. 2 touchdowns or 3 total touchdowns in the second game of the season. 3 total touchdowns, 2 total touchdowns, 2, 4. He had 5 passing touchdowns against Washington, 5 passing touchdowns against New Orleans. There's only been 1 game where he threw for 0 passing touchdowns, and no games where he's gone without a touchdown.
So then you're saying the key to stopping Carolina is to shut down Cam Newton?
Yes, but I don't think you can shut down Cam Newton.
Von Miller might have something to say about that. DeMarcus Ware might have something to say about that as well.
They might. They can say what they want. I just don't think they can do it. They can slow him down, but I don't think you can stop him.
For argument's sake, who would you rather have, Tom Brady or Cam Newton?
I think the Patriots would have won the game yesterday if they had Cam Newton. Because
so you would rather have You would rather have Tom Brady over Cam Newton?
No, Cam Newton over Tom Brady.
Sorry.
Because Cam Newton can get out of the pocket. He can break tackles. He can throw people off of you. And now given Von Miller and DeMarcus Ware, great defensive linemen, but he's quick.
Yeah, he's tough to bring down. I mean, again, we talked about how big he is. He's 6'6" and just a total brute. But I also think that if you put in a game plan to minimize his outside of the pocketness and keep him contained, there's people that are smarter than you and I, Maxwell, will be sitting in a room for the next 2 weeks figuring out how to bottle him up and keep him inside.
Yeah,
that's what they're going to do.
That's their job.
And that's what they're going to do. They're going to pull up tape from a year or two ago, and they're going to find out his worst statistical games, and they're going to go, what did they do so well to keep him from running?
Well,
if you let him get to the outside, you're going to be in trouble because he's going to be able to create.
Let's look at his worst statistical games.
This year or last year?
Just this year. The only loss to Atlanta, second to last game of the season, 17 for 30, 142 yards, no touchdowns.
How many
7
interceptions?
rushes, no interceptions. 7 rushes for 18 yards and 1 touchdown. They figured it out.
But so that'll be a game that they'll look at.
They had also played him 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks before that.
Yeah. Well, look at the tape from the first game. What did you do right? What did you do wrong? Look at the tape from the second game. They figured it out. I'm surprised that Tom Brady or that Peyton Manning. God, why am I getting these games all confused? I'm surprised that Bruce Arians didn't have that figured out going into that game to stop him because it looked like Cam was. That was like the first time they'd seen him play. In all honesty, now 7 turnovers. 7 turnovers is going to put any football team in a losing category. There was no way they were coming back with Carson Palmer playing as bad as he did.
Seattle also did a good job 2 weeks ago of stopping Cam Newton, but they still won,
right?
Carolina still won the game. 16
out.
to 22, 27, or 161 yards, touchdown, and only 3 yards rushing.
Yeah,
with a longest rush of 5.
Their defense is just really good over there. Look up the defensive stats for the NFL as a whole. I'd love to see where both of them. Denver's number 1. I know Denver's
number 1. Carolina is number 3 if you're looking at yards.
Total defense. Which would be that one that you're looking at.
So, if we're going to look, total defense, Carolina's at number 6. They average 322 passing yards a game. No. What is it? 234 passing yards a game. 332 total yards a game.
Okay. Well, all I know is that it's going to be a great Super Bowl 50. I'm so sad that Coldplay is the halftime act.
Who do they add? Do they add Beyonce?
They need to add.
They need to just get rid of Coldplay.
I mean, isn't Coldplay the one that everyone makes fun of?
Yeah, because they're Coldplay. But didn't they have Nickelback play?
Nickelback. No. That was the one I was thinking about.
Nickelback played. Did he play? I think they played the Lions Thanksgiving halftime.
That's what it was. That's what it was, and that was such a Lions thing.
Coldplay. People also make fun of Coldplay though, but they did add somebody. I can't remember. Let me see if I can find it here on Twitter. Twitter always has an answer to everything.
Yeah, Twitter does. But I look. The Super Bowl is always great.
Yeah,
parties are always fun. The squares are fun to get into the squares and all that jazz. So I'm looking forward to Super Bowl Sunday in a couple of weeks. But we'll have plenty more time to talk about this, discuss this, break this down on the Sports Cave, and next Monday, right here on our weekly Sports Chat. Next week we'll try to do something a little bit more fun with it. Maybe we'll get like a squid or an octopus. Seth, is that in the budget? An octopus to pick the winning team?
We could just
can we do that?
We could just get a dead octopus.
Can we bring in a bronco and a panther and have them fight?
I would take the panther on that.
The octopus? Okay. Well, if we can make that happen, I'd love to see if we can do something fun with it. Spice it up. Okay. All right.
Why don't we have a dog? Don't they do dogs? Dogs, like Jimmy Fallon usually has the puppies come out and dog food.
No, we have friends at the Humane Society. Can they bring a bunch of puppies?
Humane Society,
Seth,
we do.
We got people at the Humane Society, right? We can have them bring a bunch of puppies. We can do Puppy Bowl here on the webcast next week.
They're not going to want them to fight.
No, but they can play.
They don't fight.
We can, and I'll narrate it.
Have
Have you ever watched the Puppy Bowl?
My mom and
Have
sister
you ever
record it.
just they record it?
Shout out to
it's
they're
the
probably
greatest.
watching
I want to
right
be
now.
the announcer for it because it's like, and here's Sunshine. Oh, he grabs the chewy rubber. He goes into the end zone for the touchdown, and the guy's voice is so like QVC, like it's just hilarious. Yeah, I don't know how they keep score with that, but.
I don't know.
We've really gotten.
I don't know who referees that.
We've really got. I know. I see the guy who was picking up the dogs, and especially if they get a penalty if they're a little rough. Yeah.
So you see a paw somebody in the face.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like,
And then they show
out.
like the slow-mo replay. It's actually kind of fascinating to watch it.
Very well produced.
It's about 6 seconds is about as long as you can watch it before you're like, okay, this is ridiculous. All right, let's reset the show. Top of the hour, 1 o'clock here on the Detroit Sports Webcast here every Monday. On WXYZ.com and in the app. Thank you for watching. I always appreciate it. Maxwell does too, I'm sure.
I do.
Yes.
So does Seth.
So does Seth. But Seth is not mic'd up. He gave us a big thumbs up. So here's the deal. Let's switch gears. I want to talk a little bit about college football recruiting because I think it's a hot button topic, especially with National Signing Day just about, next Wednesday? So we've got about 10 days before the recruits are able to sign their actual letters of intent to go to colleges. But we already have today, Michigan just got another recruit who was committed to Penn State for like ever and decided to drop Penn State this morning. He sent out in a nice little note, as the kids are doing these days.
That's
on
what
their phone.
they do. They screenshot it and then tweet it.
They screenshot it and then they tweet it. So there was another gentleman this morning who, let's see if I can get his name here, because I saw it and I was like, oh, okay. But here it is. Mike Dwumfor. He's a defensive tackle, highly rated kid, 4-star kid out of New Jersey. He's really good friends with a guy from Rashawn Gary, the number 1 overall prospect in this year's class. Michigan's in on him. There's a lean for that as well. But my problem with recruiting is stop this commitment game. Like when is the NCAA going to wise up to this whole like I'm committed with a verbal commitment and then not having a signing opportunity until February, the first Wednesday of February every year.
And a verbal commitment does nothing.
A verbal commitment is
nothing anymore.
It does. It's a non-binding agreement. Now, some coaches ask for you to honor your commitment and not visit other places. Some places are more lenient with, well, you're committed to us, but you can go look around. Remember, recruits, high school kids are okay to visit every school they want unofficially. They're only allowed 5 official visits. That's when they pay for you to get there. They put you up in lodging.
Yeah.
They give you food all weekend. It's like an official visit is a way for them to roll out the red carpet and like wine and dine the kid. Mm-hmm. Not wine, but soda pop and dine the kid, and have them check out the campus and get to
we'll bring
see
you
all
in for
the
a game. You meet the
right,
players,
right,
all that stuff.
Right. And unofficials, you can come in and you can still go to games and get tickets and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not as So the problem I have with the whole recruiting game is why is there not an early signing period? Like, this makes no sense. If a kid finishes his junior year and it's the summertime before he goes into his senior year, why is there not a rule? Why is there not a tweak to the rule where if I am a kid who wants to play at Michigan and I want to go to Michigan and I'm so dead set on going to Michigan, I'm so happy I was recruited, I'm a highly rated kid, or I'm on the cusp of being a highly rated kid going into my senior year, I should be able to sign somewhere that says, Michigan, I am choosing you right now, and I'm done signing it. I can't change my mind, even if I want to. I can't do it because I've already signed on the dotted line. Because that's what LOI is on next Wednesday. Because once they sign, they can't get out of it.
Well, that's the thing. I would just make it that day. If you want to. The kids love it as much as the players do because those kids are stars in their high school and stars in their town. They're like, yeah, I'm going to Michigan. I've committed to Michigan. And then it's like, oh, wow, or I'm going to Alabama. Oh, this guy's going to play under Nick Saban. He's won 4 or 5 national championships. And, it's a big deal for the kids as much as it is for everybody else. But it's frustrating.
It upsets me that a kid like this Swenson kid. Now, we don't know the whole story. Let's put this out there first.
That's right.
Eric Swenson was a recruit that had committed before his junior year to play at Michigan.
Which is even more absurd.
But recruiting is accelerated more and more these days anyways.
Yeah.
But he's been recruited, or was committed to Michigan, stopped looking, didn't go on visits, and a week ago, Jim Harbaugh pulled his scholarship and said, hey, we don't have room for you. And the kid's going, well, I haven't done my due diligence at other places because I was coming to Michigan. That's all I ever wanted to do was go and play for Michigan. I committed to you guys 2 years ago. Now, he did commit under Brady Hoke. That does change some things. But why didn't Jim Harbaugh call him a year ago and be like, hey, man, we're opening up our recruitment. Everyone's being re-recruited. Why don't you come back? Let's get to know you, and we'll see if this is still a good fit for you or not. That's to me, more than fair. Absolutely more than fair. For the kid, it's fair for the program. It's fair for both sides. No one gets their feelings hurt at the end of the day.
Yep.
That's how it should have been handled.
Exactly.
It wasn't handled that way. It was, hey, you're still committed. All right, great. Yeah, I got a call from Brady Hoke, or from Jim Harbaugh saying, yeah, you're still interested. Glad you're a Michigan man. Woo! Have a good senior year. We'll see you on campus. A week before. Mm-hmm. Well, technically 3 weeks before, but 2 weeks, 3 weeks before.
At that point,
everybody's filling up, and you're telling a kid, hey, good luck finding a new place to go play. Like, see you later. That, to me, while there's nothing illegal about it, while there's nothing, in the rule book that says that's not allowed, that's just bad business. Like, that's bad business for everybody. The kid, the school looks bad doing it. And I got in somewhat of a Twitter spat about it with some writers and some fans and stuff because I said every school does it in some capacity. So everyone's guilty of this. I'm not saying it's just a Michigan problem. It's not saying it's just an Ohio State or Alabama problem. I'm not saying Michigan State's immune from it because they've done it in certain instances as well. Everybody does it. There's the new story that's coming out of Western Michigan about the kid that was recruited to play there, wanted to play there, signed an LOI, busted up his knee, and then basically when he got on campus, he worked his butt off to get back on the field, and the coach, PJ Fleck, told him, hey, you should transfer, you're not going to play here.
LOI, by the way, letter of intent for people watching that don't know.
But that happens at places too. It's bad for both sides. I really just hate that there's a lot of snaking and a lot of weaseling, and this goes back to the middlemen and the handlers of these kids and the pampering that they go through. They go to these 7-on-7 camps and these defensive and offensive lineman
they're
camps.
Stars, and that's
they're stars in the high school football circuit, and it's just becoming such a And I mean, look, it's not going to change. I'm not up here petitioning for change. I'm just saying, look, if a kid wants to commit, let him sign the paper. Let him sign the paper. If he doesn't want to commit and he's like going, well, I don't really want to sign yet, that's good for both sides because then the coach can go, all right, well, hey, here's the deal. You don't sign, I'm going to look for other running backs. I'm going to look for other tight ends. I'm going to look for other linebackers. And the kid's going to be like, oh, well, do I really want to go to Michigan or am I really thinking I want to go somewhere else?
Yeah.
Let the kid choose. Let the kids have an opportunity to sign before they have a chance to.
And this also comes with the rise of social media and the fact that everybody's now on Twitter, especially high schoolers are on Twitter, they're on Instagram, and you have Jim Harbaugh sleeping over at kids' houses and going to school with them, so the kids are tweeting it out like, oh, look at who I got, Jim Harbaugh, he's shooting hoops in my backyard and he's sleeping over in my basement. Now, given it's Jim Harbaugh,
I'm not talking about
Mark D'Antonio has come out and said that we won't talk about it.
It gets me in trouble. It gets me in trouble because it's so asininely stupid. Let me just put this point out there and we'll move on to college hoops. Jim Harbaugh doesn't have to do these things. No one is out there going, well, I wonder what kind of, buddy Jim Harbaugh is. You get Jim Harbaugh over to your house. He has dinner with your parents. He watches a movie with you or plays video games or goes out in the backyard and plays catch to get to know you a little bit better. That's all fine and dandy. Get a hotel room at 2 o'clock in the morning and go home. Think about it. I wake up and I'm Mr. Rose and my kid's being recruited. And I walk down my stairs and Jim Harbaugh's sleeping on my couch. I'm supposed to respect that guy, coaching my kid and making him a better man for the next 4 or 5 years?
Well, the respect, I think, is a little bit different. I think just the absurdity of him doing it is its own thing.
Get a hotel room. I'll pick you up at 6 in the morning and we'll go get breakfast.
Don't need to sleep in his kid's house. I'm sure the parents love it just as much as the kid does. That's what I'm going with it.
Can we all agree that it's a little weird?
These parents have had.
Is it weird?
Oh, it's totally weird.
I mean, I don't want to feel like I'm off base.
It's weirder the fact that it wouldn't be as weird if he's sleeping on their couch. It's weirder that he's sleeping in a sleeping bag on the floor in their room. And that's the thing, when you talk about the parents, I think the parents are like, oh yeah, hey neighbor, look at this, Jim Harbaugh sleeping on my couch, yeah, because the kids are pampered and the parents are basically the same way. I mean,
I'm going to move on from it because it's nothing but
college basketball
infuriating thing for me.
Michigan State, huge win.
They gave away these things at the game,
but they were on a 3-game losing streak, 3-game Big Ten losing streak. Hey, welcome number 7 Maryland, right? East Lansing. They welcome number 7 Maryland into East Lansing. College game days in town, and they come up big.
You can't see the walls in here. Actually, I'm going to take a picture of it right now.
Tweet. You want me to take a picture?
Yeah,
of
take
it?
a picture of this.
Okay.
This room, and Max will tweet it out on our WXYZ app. But this colored room is the color of the jerseys.
And
you on the space of the interwebs see a nice little set behind me with our little things up here, and the desk is actually real. That exists. But this is a horrible color. This is a not fun color. I mean, it's fun, but it's not a appeasing to watch color. When you come through here, it's
and we did a Twitter poll yesterday. I put a Twitter poll up on our.
What was the results?
On our Twitter, WXYZ Detroit. I am pulling it up right now. We had 710 votes, I believe.
Okay.
710 votes. 68% said they did not like the neon mean green jerseys. So nearly 7 in 10, a little more than 2/3.
68%. Well, that's probably what I...
And we discussed this yesterday. Stoney, Jake Chapman, and yourself talked about this, and I think I was in the room as well. You're appealing to 17 and 18-year-olds.
True.
Who love it.
Well, and Tom Izzo even said, look, I like 17-year-olds more than I like 90-year-olds right now. I know what he means by saying that. I mean, simply the fact that kids want to be attracted to a program that's going to do fun things and highlight them and literally highlight her colors.
That's why Oregon is such a huge deal, because they've got all those jerseys.
And Nike is trying to do more and more with Michigan State because they have the growing brand that they have put out there for themselves. And I mean, look, Michigan State's a growing brand nationally, with their basketball team being as good as they've been for the past 15 years and 20 years now. And their football team is arising over the past decade. So Nike sees favorable outcome for this because of the real green that they're talking about. No, Michigan State played one of their better games of the season. I can't say it was their best game because I think they played better against Kansas early on in the season, Louisville, some Florida, some of those games. But to me, the only thing I'm going to take away, and this is because college basketball season is so long, and nothing matters until March anyways, Big Ten tournament and then the NCAA tournament, is this. They're back, at least for a game. I got to see it again, but at least you can say, okay, Denzel Valentine found out of his funk. He's out of it. Bryn Forbes, he's out of his shooting slump.
Yeah, he had a good game.
Matt Costello brought energy to the inside. Deonta Davis is starting to play with more passion, and he's getting more minutes. Once that kid figures it out, once the light switch comes on for him, watch out, because he's going to be a special player. But it was really nice to finally see them kind of do that. Big national stage, as you said. College game day was there. National audience on a Saturday evening. That was as good as it could have been for Michigan State, beating a Maryland team that I still think can win it all. So yeah. I think that...
Well, and this is just college basketball itself. I thought I saw a stat that all but one of the top 8 teams lost this weekend in college basketball?
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's how college basketball is.
Jay Billis, there's an interview with Jay Billis and I on our website, WXYZ.com, which you were watching this on. If you go check it out, he was very open with talking about how this is not like last year where there were 3 dominant number 1 teams like Duke and Kentucky and who was the other third number 1 that got into the Final Four last year? Who did Kentucky? Oh, Wisconsin.
Wisconsin, yes.
Those are 3 dominated teams with experience, leadership, and skill. Michigan State kind of eked into that Final Four for sure. But this year, there's no one team that's playing. I mean, all teams are capable of playing. I like how Oklahoma's playing right now a lot. I really like them. But they're beatable. There's ways to beat that team. That team is not as complete as some teams we've seen before. So Billis was basically just saying, this is the year that, like 2 years ago when madness truly happens and you have a bunch of lower seeds getting to the Final Four, because if you find your peak at that right time, you're going to be able to excel and move on in tournament time. So I look at Michigan State as obviously a team that I'd put up there in the top 8. They'll probably be number 9 when the poll – is the poll out yet? If it's not, it should be coming out soon.
I don't think it is. It should maybe 2 o'clock. Do they come out at 2 o'clock?
Yeah, but they should be about – they were at 11. I think they lost the game to an unranked team, and then they beat a number 7. I think that they – probably slip to 9, move up to 9. Maybe they move up to 10. Not too far, but I think they'll get a top 2 seed in the bracket when it all comes down. And we'll see where the chips may fall. As for Michigan, they had a nice win.
Yeah,
they had a nice week last week. They won both, or they lost to Iowa on the road. Iowa's undefeated, one of the only undefeated teams in the Big Ten. Kind of a surprise, not really though when you really think about it. They got like 5 seniors. They have 400 games of experience.
Yeah, you play together that long, you're going to figure something out.
Yeah. But
Michigan, 5-2 in the Big Ten, I believe, 15-5 overall.
Yeah.
They're, and without, Karis LeVert didn't play on Saturday, right?
Mm-hmm. No, he didn't.
They're playing well without, without one of their better players.
That's the question I'm going to have for them when Karis LeVert does come back. I did not talk to John Beilein, Jim. John Beilein had his weekly one-on-one with us today. By the way, I learned how to shoot 3-pointers from the head coach today. That'll be a fun little segment to see. Leave you with this tease. He has a spot for me on the bench.
That's good. Now, does he? I'm sure he has a spot for me on the bench too, and he's never met me before. But I'm not gonna
just saying
burst your bubble.
There's a spot for me on the Michigan bench. I'm not telling you where it is. You'll have to find out at 6 o'clock. But I got a couple years of eligibility left, I could be one of those, 31-year-old
Utah
transfers,
stars.
Graduate transfers. Go to Michigan, get my graduate degree. Seth, what should I get my master's degree in? From Michigan.
Obviously not 3-point shooting.
You don't need one.
Oh, I don't even need one.
Would they allow you on campus?
What do you mean?
Well, because you're such a Michigan State Spartan fan.
There are so many Michigan State people get degrees, their
doctorates. I know, but I feel like those people
Michigan.
Don't care about Michigan State sports.
Well, that's because they study.
That's what I'm saying.
I don't
That's
study.
What I'm saying.
No. Yeah, they let me on campus. I have a security detail that I go around with. Just in case.
Michigan's got Michigan has Rutgers Wednesday.
Rutgers Wednesday at home.
Penn State at home. Sunday.
And then they're the cool thing, they're playing Penn State at Madison Square Garden at noon, and then the hockey teams, Penn State and Michigan State, are playing at 7 o'clock at night at Madison Square Garden. So they're playing a basketball game. In the 3 hours or so it takes between the two games, they're going to change the court to an ice rink like they do for the Rangers and the Knicks, and then they'll play, and they're both going to watch each other's games. Cool scene. It'll be really cool. John doesn't like to look ahead. He likes to focus on the task at hand, which is Rutgers, but he also acknowledged the fact that that's a pretty cool opportunity for New Yorkers and people from the East Coast who are Michigan or Penn State fans, which is a huge alumni base for both those schools in New York, to come and see them play both sports. I think it's a cool thing.
Then you got Michigan State, Michigan hockey at the Joe on, I believe, February 5th or 6th.
And then you got Michigan State basketball the day after that, day before the Super Bowl is that game.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
At Chrysler.
That's a big game.
Yep, that'll be a big one. Because we wrote, here's the thing about
right?
the only meeting. Here's what we don't know about Michigan yet. We know a little bit about it, but we don't know the whole story yet. I need to see this team against some higher level competition. And we've seen them kind of falter a little bit early on so far against ranked teams and ranked opponents, kind of getting beaten early in the season. But that does not always dictate how that team was going to end up at the end of the season. Case in point being this. They lost to Xavier and UConn when UConn was ranked. They also lost to SMU, who just lost their first game, so they've been playing pretty good. Purdue, who was ranked 20th when they played them, and at Iowa. I mean, those are, if you're going to look at their 5 losses, those are 5 good losses.
Yeah.
And you can't say that every team with 5 losses has 5 good losses on their resume. They certainly don't. Here's the thing. They're going to get through this week, probably win both of those games. But next 2 weeks, 3 weeks for them, listen to this schedule. Home against Indiana, home against Michigan State in the same week. Then you go to Minnesota, and then you're home against Purdue, a team that already beat you.
Yeah,
then you go to Ohio State and to Maryland. That is 6 games where if they could easily go 1-5.
Yeah. Well, that'll be their test right there, because then they're almost done. That's almost the end of
the
season.
They'll
right?
have 3 games left with that. But I can see them going 500 through that stretch. But maybe they surprise. Maybe they go 4-2. Mm-hmm. I don't think they run the table with it, but maybe they do. And this is what my point is Michigan basketball should make the NCAA tournament this year. I think they're good enough to get in, maybe as like a 10 seed or a 9 seed. But they can get into the tournament, and with the way that they shoot the 3 ball, I mean, they're 7th in the country in 3-pointers made.
Well, and that's all you have to do is make the tournament. Then anything
goes. So I'm just saying, a hot shooting team, if they can all get hot and Karras can come back and be the guy that we all know he can be, that team could be dangerous come March. So I'm kind of holding back on really proclaiming Michigan good or bad. I'm thinking that they're probably towards good. They're not great, but they're probably trending towards good. But that 2 weeks starting in February, I mean, the first 3 weeks of February for them is 4 ranked opponents in 6 games.
Yeah.
That's all I got to say. And they haven't beaten a ranked opponent this year. So
wait, didn't they beat Maryland?
They did beat Maryland. You're right. That's number 3 when they were number 3.
Yeah.
So there's that one. So yeah, I don't know. Again, I'm not gonna say that they're not gonna. I think they make the tournament. How well they do, I'll know more, and I'll be able to be more comfortable about saying where that Michigan team is on how they navigate the second half of that schedule.
If we're switching gears here, the Tigers.
Oh,
the big signing last week, really.
Oh, what's his name?
Justin Upton.
What's his first name?
Justin.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's like an average name at best.
Average name at best. Listen to you. No, I like the Tigers. I like the Tigers a lot. I think that they've improved the things that they've needed to improve. The bullpen is going to be better. The rotation is at least a little bit more sturdy than it was going into last year.
Yep.
And
I'm still worried about starting pitching a little bit.
That offense can be unbelievable if it gets rolling. Here's the problem. When have we seen it get rolling?
Yeah.
And that's the problem with offensive lineups in baseball is I think the numbers kind of help dictate this a little bit, but this is baseball. Professional baseball is a pitcher's league.
Yeah. No.
It favors pitchers more than hitters almost across the board, really, with the way defenses are, shifts, like numbers and all of that stuff. It's hard to hit the baseball in Major League Baseball. It just is for a variety of reasons. The arm strength, the curvature on balls, positions for defensive players. It's hard to get hits. So if you're relying on your team, if that's the strength of your team is, well, we can hit. It's hard to get hits. It's hard to get back-to-back hits. It's hard to manufacture runs by hitting the ball and not playing small ball, bunting and sac flies. Like those are the types of things that I'm interested to see the growth in Brad Ausmus as a manager. How is he going to work this? Is he going to be like, all right, everybody go out there and swing away. Casey at the bat, let's go. Or is he going to try to be more tactical in the way that he has his players try to go out and do things?
And there's still a lot of question marks going into this season. You know, is Victor Martinez, going to be able to hit the ball? You know, he's getting older. Daniel Norris is still a question mark. New pitcher. Mike Pelfrey.
Yeah.
You know, you don't know how that's going to work. Can Anibal Sanchez stay hot, or can he stay healthy? I'm sorry, because that guy he can't seem to put together a healthy season of 30 or more starts a season. In his entire time with Detroit, and he's a good pitcher. But again, baseball comes down to pitching, and it'll be interesting to see how they do it. The bullpen is nice, because that's always been a struggle, and Alavila is building. Alavila, I was worried a little bit when they kept Alavila around. It goes back to the same, like the Lions keep Martin Mayhew around. Alavila worked with Dombrowski, but so far he's done a very good job between bringing in K-Rod.
Yeah, I like Avila and what he's been able to do. And Upton is a big thing. Now this is all still Illich kind of pulling the strings.
That guy really wants to win.
And I think that here's the deal with the Tigers. I think they need to get off to a hot start, and they need to find themselves. So many times in the past 6 years, and I think everyone out there can agree with this, so many times in the last 6 years, the Tigers have been such heavy favorites going into the season that they lose. You can lose track of the ability or the want to get better, because if you're patted on the back enough and you're told that your doesn't stink, you'd think. Everyone tells you it doesn't stink. If everyone tells me I'm going to win the World Series, I'll go out there and I'll win the World Series. Well, if you're kind of knocked down a few pegs and you need to kind of start fresh, the team needs to find out who it is. And last year, I don't think they ever found it out. That for a multitude of reasons. Verlander was hurt during spring training, didn't return until after the All-Star break. Yeah. Half the season is gone without one of your best pitchers.
And he returned pretty strong.
And he did return pretty strong.
It would be nice to see him keep that up.
It would be nice to see him
he's
actually start a season.
Number one, right?
Miguel Cabrera missed the beginning of the season too with his foot injury. So this team could never really find out who it is. And I look to this team to try to get back, and that's something I'm looking forward to finding out during spring training, is whether or not this team feels that they need to get back to the basics and stop with the whole pat on the back thing. It's a heavy bankroll, a heavily paid team to go out and perform. They've underperformed. Why is it this year that you're going to perform? That's the question I'm going to be asking. I'm going to ask the players that. I want to know what do you guys think about, this idea that maybe you got patted on the back for so long, you won 4 straight crowns. That was taken away from you last year. And by the way, you didn't even make the playoffs. How hungry are you now?
Well, it was you were done at the trade deadline when you started selling. Yeah. One quick question before we wrap up here from Bob. Sure. What position do you think the Pistons need to focus on more in the offseason?
Oh, man, that's a great question. Well, I think that they're locked up at point guard for right now with Reggie Jackson and Jennings coming off the bench. Obviously, their center is fine. I think they need a legitimate 4-man. They need a guy that can stretch the floor 12 to 15 feet to 18 feet, maybe.
Like a Tayshaun Prince?
No, not a Tayshaun Prince. Like a Greg Monroe, but not Greg Monroe.
I think Greg Monroe was too big. He was a center, basically, that they used him as a power forward.
But if you get a power forward who can score outside of the range of Andre Drummond, which is literally 6 feet, I think we all can agree that he can't shoot outside of 6 feet. You don't want him pulling up a 12-foot jumper from the baseline. But if you could find a guy who can, see, I wish that I really, really, truly, and this is not because I like Michigan State, because I like Draymond Green. If they would have somehow been able to pry him away from Golden State last year, now he just signed a 6-year or some deal, like max contract.
Yeah, that would be great.
That's the type of guy that they need. Where is he? Who is he? Can they find a guy for that? They need to. Stanley Johnson's going to play your 3. Ilyasova is your guy for the 4 right now, and he's pretty good because he can shoot the 3. That system works. But this team, to answer your question, I think this team needs to find depth. That's where it's at. They have no bench. Their starting 5 is pretty good, and when they're all clicking, they can play pretty well. When they play with passion, they can do good things. But when that second unit comes in, they're just god-awful. I mean, Stan Van Gundy talks about it every game. Yeah. We got nothing from our bench. Well, they don't get anything from. When you got Steve Blake as your third backup point guard, and he comes in for shooting guard point, I mean, the guy's older than dirt. And you're asking him to go out there and play with all these. This is a young game. The NBA is younger than it's ever been. You have to have 18, 19, 20-year-olds, 21, 22. I mean, that's the range of the 5 years you play in the league, 18 to 23. So this team needs to get younger and deeper. I think that's where I'm going to end things with the Pistons. But they got a big one tonight against the Jazz. Apparently they had a snowball fight after the game in Denver, and everything is fine, and they're happy, and they've talked about their roles. But I look at it, the Wings as well. The Wings, they got to figure out how to win at home. That team's in some trouble. That playoff streak's in jeopardy, but it'll be really important to see how they bounce back after the All-Star break. I think everyone's looking for that. That's this weekend in Nashville, how they handle that moving forward. All right, thanks for the questions, thanks for the tweets, thanks for all the emails and stuff. We'll be here again next Monday, doing this all over again every Monday from 12:30 to 1:30 right here on WXYZ.com. My name is Justin Rose. I will be anchoring this evening. If you would like to check out that John Beeline piece, do so. It's about 6:15, 6:18-ish this evening. Other than that, enjoy your evening and your week, and we'll see you later on. Have a good one.